we're going to be looking at verses 7 through 13, I think. Yeah, 7 through 13 in Revelations 3. All right, and it says, "And to the angel of the church of Philadelphia write, These things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth, and no man shutteth, and shutteth, and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before thee, and to know that I have loved thee. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep them from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. I will write upon him my new name. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches." So this is the 6th of the 7 churches that we've been studying. And the Church of Philadelphia is an ancient city. The ancient city of Philadelphia sits beneath the modern Turkish city, Al-Ashir. Most of the ancient city is buried underneath the residential and commercial buildings of the new city. Philadelphia was built on 4 or 5 hills with a picturesque setting. Volcanic cliffs stood behind the city, and then fertile plains lay before it. Evidently, the area at that was a hotbed for earthquakes, as it sit on a geological fault line. And massive earthquakes rocked that area several times. In 17 AD, the earthquake was so massive that it leveled the city. And with the help of Emperor Tiberius, it was rebuilt. And because of Tiberius's help, the people of the city, in gratitude, renamed it the Neo Caesarea for a number of years before renaming it back to Philadelphia. There is not a lot of the ancient city left. What is left are several of the landmarks. Are the Basilica of St. John is the main archaeological site. It features several massive brick pillars and the foundation dating back to the Byzantine Empire. The ancient city walls are a crumbling remnant of the Byzantine era that are still visible in the northeast part of the modern city. This city, Philadelphia, was founded around 189 BC by King Eumenes II of Pergamon. He named the city Philadelphia for the love of his brother, who would become his successor, Attalus II. Philadelphia literally means one who loves his brother, hence it got the name, the city of brotherly love. Philadelphia was the youngest of the 7 churches, and it had a few other names that it went by. It went by Decapolis because it was considered as one of the 10 cities of the plain, and it was also nicknamed Little Athens because of its temples. The purpose of Philadelphia was to be a mission outpost for the spreading of the Greek culture throughout the region of Lydia and Phrygia, which is in the region of Turkey today. Philadelphia is situated at the border of 3 countries, Mysia, Phrygia, and Lydia, and it is called the gateway to the east, and a strategic location for being a mission outpost. It did its job so well that by 19 AD, the Greek language had replaced the language of Lydia. Because of the volcanic nature of the soil, Philadelphia became famous for growing grapes on the land, and I'm going to butcher this name. It is called Katakikalmini, which means the burnt land. The area is also rich in hot springs, which people come to bathe in for the medicinal purposes. And today the city of Philadelphia is called Ala Shahir, which means city of God. So in verse 7, it says, to the church of Philadelphia write, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. This verse here is very rich. Christ identifies himself in four unique ways. First being he that is holy. We know that Christ is holy. We can look all the way back to Leviticus 11:44 and 45 to see what God said about that. In verse 44 of Leviticus 11, it says, for I am the Lord your God. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall you defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. For I am the Lord that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. What is the meaning of holy? It means exalted or worthy of complete devotion, as one perfect in goodness and righteousness. It means sinless. 1 Peter chapter 1 verses 15 and 16 say, But as he which hath called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation, because it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy. Christ was free from sin. Peter said he did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. John said, in him is no sin. Paul said he knew no sin. Pilate and his wife said he was a just man. The second identity that Christ stated in this verse is he that is true. I can't help but when I read those words, thinking back to what Christ said in John 14 and 6, Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Christ was genuine and authentic. Christ was and is real. He was not a fake or false. G. Campbell Morgan had this to say. He said, he helps us out by distinguishing between holy and true. As the Holy One, the Lord is right in his character. As the true one, he is right in his conduct. When character is right, our conduct will be right. Since he is perfect in what he is also perfect in what he does. Then the last two I sort of combined, where he said, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. Christ is sovereign, for he has the key of David. Christ showed that he is the keeper of keys and doors. This quote here comes from Isaiah 22, verses 20 through 23, and it says, and it shall come to pass in that day that I will call my servant Eliakim to the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with thy robe, and strengthen him with thy girdle, and I will commit thy government into his hand. And he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and to the house of Judea. And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulders, so that he shall open, and none shall shut. He shall shut, and none shall open. And I will fasten him as a nail in a sure place, and he shall be for a glorious throne to his father's house. This is the first time that we find this phrase used in the Bible. It was used by the servant Eliakim. The key of David was the key to the palace and the royal treasury, which Eliakim could open and shut at any time. Christ is the sole heir to the throne of David, and the key is a symbol to his authority. And we know that Christ will sit on the throne of David in the millennial kingdom because the Bible tells us that. He also had keys to other doors. He's the key to our salvation. He's the key to the scriptures. He's even the key to the door that opens heaven.
So I gotta
ask.
So this is pretty much saying this is the way that all this is laid out here is the way that you should walk in your life. Kind of. It's the way that I expect you to live your daily life. Maybe.
Yeah. So in verse 7, he's identifying himself and what he is. In verse 8, Christ says, I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Christ said, I know thy works. He said this to all 7 of the churches. And Philadelphia is the only church that Christ didn't give an admonition to. Instead of admonishing them, he applauded them, meaning that they're the only church of the 7 that he didn't have a complaint about. He didn't rebuke them. He didn't file a complaint or a grievance against this church. The church in Philadelphia was apparently a small church in number. So they had very little strength numerically, but what they lacked in number, they made up for it by the faithfulness of their members.
That's what I was kind of meaning, since he had to go to like all 7 and stuff, and that's where I was kind of meaning about he will go and tell them, go and talk to all 7 churches and stuff. That's what I kind of meant.
Yep. When I thought about this little strength, I couldn't help but think about that old hymn, Little is Much When God is in It. Mm-hmm. The Bible is full of God's people facing overwhelming odds and coming out on top. Abraham, for example, when his nephew Lot was taken by those 4 kings, Abraham took 318 men and whooped 4 kings and their armies and brought the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and his nephew out of captivity. Gideon, he slaughtered the Midianites with 300 men, and I forget how many the number was for the army of the Midianites. And then Elijah, he defeated all the prophets of Baal. Also in verse 8 it says, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. This church was given an open door, and an open door speaks of ministry or evangelical opportunity. In 1 Corinthians 16:9, it says, for a great door and effectual is opened unto me. This is Paul writing. And there are many adversaries. 2 Corinthians 2:12 says, furthermore, when I came to Troas to preach Christ's gospel, a door was opened unto me of the Lord. Then in Colossians 4:3, with all praying also for us that God would open unto us a door of utterance to speak the mystery of Christ, for which I am also in bonds. And let's look at Acts 14:27. And Acts 14:27 says, and when they were come and gathered the church together, they rehearsed all that God had done with them, and how he had opened the door of faith to the Gentiles. Christ is the Lord of the harvest and the head of the church. It is he that determines when and where we serve and in what capacity. The city had the mission of spreading the Greek culture and language throughout the whole region. But the church in Philadelphia had an opportunity to spread the gospel and culture of Christ's kingdom throughout the whole region. Do we have an open door today? Yes. What is an open door? An open door is an opportunity to witness for the cause of Christ, to share the gospel, to share your testimony, to plant that seed that might be nurtured and one day produce the fruit of salvation. Now then, when we get over to the last church, we're going to see that instead of an open door, we're going to find a closed door. And currently, we have an open door. People are still being saved, just like the 4 that were saved at Bible Camp this week. If we are given an open door, then God wants us to take that opportunity and do the service for the cause of Christ. As we learned in verse 7, Christ is the only one that can open and shut doors. Man cannot shut any door that Christ wants left open. The last part of verse 8 says, "For thou hast little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name." The church of Philadelphia was faithful to Christ and his word. These Christians did not only express their allegiance to Jesus, they lived it in a way that was faithful to the name and to the character of Christ. We live in a day where some churches that claim great faithfulness to the word of Jesus deny his name and character. They represent the manner and style of Jesus as something very different from what the Bible shows. Philadelphia looked like this. They were a ministry opportunity. They had an open door. They relied on God and not their own strength. They were faithful. They kept his word and did not deny his name. This is how every Bible-believing, Bible-preaching church and Christian should be seen. This church in Philadelphia made Christ happy. He wasn't ashamed of this church. Verse 9. "Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee." So we see there were some opposed to the truth, claiming to be Christians, but weren't. They were liars and deceivers, just like their father, the devil. The Jews were persecuting the Christians in Philadelphia, but those claiming to be Jews weren't really Jews at all. They were Jews in name only. This is a good illustration of the tactics Satan uses on us. According to scientists, the Arctic polar bear feeds almost entirely on seals. To enjoy such a meal, these bears will resort to a cunning bit of trickery. If the hole through which the seal gets its food is near the edge of the ice, the polar bear will take a deep breath and swim underneath the water to that hole, to the exact location. And the bear will remain underneath that water and start making little scratching sounds under the ice where the seal can hear it. And the seals think that is a fish. And when they hear that, when the seals get hungry and they hear this, they know food's there, and they will dive into the water for a quick meal, not realizing that they're going to be the meal themselves, as the bear is there waiting to embrace them in its clutches and have its dinner. Satan desires to deceive us and entrap us in sin, so we need to beware. The second part of verse 9 says, Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Christ made a promise to vindicate his people before their persecutors, to show them that they were wrong and that Christ's followers were right. Muntz said this. He said, God promised Israel that Gentiles would honor them and acknowledge their God. Isaiah 45:14 says, Thus saith the Lord, the labor of Egypt and the merchandise of Ethiopia and of the Sabians, men of stature shall come over unto thee, and they shall be thine. And they shall come after thee, and in chains they shall come over, and they shall fall down unto thee. They shall make supplication unto thee, saying, Surely is God in thee, and there is no one else, there is no God. Now the tables were somewhat turned, and these Jewish people are playing the role of the heathen and acknowledge that the church is the Israel of God. Let me fix that. Yeah, buddy. In 1 Corinthians 14, verses 24 and 25 speaks of unbelievers falling down in the midst of Christians to worship God. Verse 24 says, But if all prophecy, no, that's wrong. Hang on, let's look it up. I don't like being wrong. It's what it says. And I'm not a big fan of autocorrect. Verse 24, But if all prophecy, and there come in one that believeth not, or one unlearned, he is convinced of all, he is judged of all. And thus are the secrets of his heart made manifest. And so, falling down on his face, he will worship God and report that God is in you of a truth. This established that Christians weren't being worshipped, but God was worshipped in the presence of Christians. Those persecutors now knew that Christ loved the ones that they had been persecuting. Now the persecutors were worshiping alongside the persecuted. They went from being enemies of the gospel to being friends of the gospel. Verse 10, Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the earth, all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. The hour of temptation here refers to the great tribulation that is to come upon the earth after the rapture of the church. We've discussed this already in the class about the rapture of the church. And once we finish the last church, the church of Laodicea, in chapter 3, and we start chapter 4, then we really begin the in-depth study of what's going to happen during the tribulation and what will befall mankind and the world during the tribulation. Now, there's a phrase in there in verse 10 that you should probably underline, and it's called them that dwell upon the earth. It's the last phrase in verse 10. Once we get into the tribulation portion of Revelations, it's going to repeat 8 more times. It's going to repeat in Revelation 6 and 10, 8 and 13, 11 and 10, 13 and 8, 13 and 14, 14 and 6, and 17 and 8. And I could not find the 8th one out of the 9. It's in there, and I'll give it to you when I find it. Revelations 17 and 18 tells us who these that dwell upon the earth are. 17 and verse 8 of Revelation says, The beast that thou sawest was and is not, shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell upon the earth shall wonder whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not, and yet is. So we know that them that dwell on the earth are those people who missed the opportunity for salvation They heard the gospel but rejected it, and because of it, they're unconverted. They're lost folks. Verse 11 says, "Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown." Christ gave them a charge here. He told them he was coming quickly and to be prepared for his coming. This speaks of the second coming of Christ. And those found faithful and ready are going to receive a reward. The crown mentioned here does not speak of salvation. It speaks of a reward that will be given for our faithful service once we got saved and born again and begin our Christian walk and work for the Lord. Yes, we can lose our crowns, but we cannot lose our salvation. How do we lose our crowns? When we get cold on God and move away from what His Word specifically tells us that we need to do. If we're living in sin, if we become cold and critical, there's different ways to lose our crowns. Revelations 22:12 says, "And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be." Let's go ahead and finish the last two verses. It won't take 5 minutes. Verse 12 says, "Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out no more. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is the New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. And I will write upon him a new name." What is a pillar? Some characteristics of a pillar would be strong, sturdy, stable, immovable, perfect, durable, just to name a few. This is what Christ is saying that he will do to us. That they would never leave again, meaning that they wouldn't have to go out no more. Remember what I said in the introduction. The city of Philadelphia was prone to earthquakes, and the people would have to leave in a hurry going out of the city, and once the earthquake was over, they could come back in and return. Because of the earthquakes, the people were in constant state of stress, worry, fear of death, but Christ is promising safety and security in himself, in Christ alone. Christ is going to write 3 things on the overcomers. He's going to write the name of God, he's going to write the name of the New Jerusalem, and he's going to write the name of Jesus Christ. Why write the name of God upon them? To show that they were one of God's children and belonged to him. Why write the name of the New Jerusalem? Possibly from studying, possibly it was to grant access to the New Jerusalem. And why write the name of Christ? To show that the personal relationship we have with Christ and the intimacy of the believer with the Lord. We belong to Christ and we have a special relationship with him. We'll be citizens of the New Jerusalem. And then the last verse, verse 13, "He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches." Basically, he says he has said that in all the 7 churches. So we better pay attention to because things are getting ready to wrap up and we don't want to be left behind. That's it for that lesson. Now, next week, we're going to have a special teacher, and